Endeavor is a totally new, fast and fun base building RTS, and it features a dozen superpowers, fortifications such as walls and towers, as well as super weapons and shields, and which you can wishlist on Steam. This hidden gem was created by a lone RTS fan turned indie developer who has already made 2 factions out of the planned 3 and a campaign for his game, so the only thing I'm sorry about is that I didn't find it earlier and featured it in my previous list of upcoming RTS games, a link to which you can find up here and in the description below. Today I am fixing my oversight and showing you the Skirmish vs AI gameplay and some of the campaign, but I don't want to spoil the missions and story too much for you. The single player is what the developer is focusing on to give you the best possible RTS experience, with more gameplay modes coming like the survival and tower defense. This developer is using the Unity engine to make Endeavor.
Ready for battle.
And I have to commend both his skill and speed, because he has taken every single one of my suggestions and feedback and implemented it all in days or weeks after my emails. I have never seen a solo dev improve his game so fast before, and I have given feedback directly to developers hundreds of times by now. Besides the mentioned features like super weapons, walls and superpowers, this indie RTS also has veterancy upgrades for units. Smart unit formations you can draw using only the mouse and a single mouse button, engineers which capture buildings and plant mines, building queues for constructors, and get this, bunkers which can walk. I haven't even listed everything, so I hope you will watch the rest of the video to see the remaining surprises. The recent playtest of Endeavor on Steam allowed me to try out both Endeavor and Presidium factions, along with their different and unique land and air units. No, there are no naval units in this game, but there will be heroes along with elite units specific to each faction. Of the planned 16 skirmish maps, I have played on 5 of them, some designed for team matches, other for free-for-alls with up to 8 players. What I really liked about their design was the inclusion of huge structures, like massive defensive turrets, energy installations, crystals and more. The AI which you can battle against on these maps behaves differently and gets much harder on the highest difficulty levels, giving a good opportunity to build up a big base and test out many of the superpowers which are the same no matter which faction you choose to play with. The one annoyance I have with the map design is that they all abruptly stop at the black border. I hope the developer embraces more modern map design and creates bigger maps which have smaller playable areas, letting the player feel like the map he is playing on is part of a bigger world and not a rectangle of land in the sea of nothingness. Other modern stuff is already here, like linking waypoints with which you can even make a closed loop patrol for units. Most ability icons have keyboard letters on them, letting you learn the shortcuts without having to read the tooltips or write down controls on a piece of paper. You can even spend intel which you gather from combat on new stockpile shipments instead of new superpowers, keeping the basic economy going if you haven't built up the passive income buildings available to both factions. The main feature of Endeavor are definitely its superpowers. You access their menu in the HQ building and see how many intel points each one costs, as well as which one is unlocked in which 3. There are 3 lines of 4 superpowers, and with enough intel points you can unlock all of them in one match. Currently, only the spy satellite has an icon in the menu, but all have different icons on the right side of the screen and show up when their cooldown has passed. The one on the left is mostly about utilities, as it holds both the spy satellite and spy drone, along with the intel extractor and large power plant. The one on the right offers the most destructive superpowers, starting with Tremor. It lets you slow down all land units trying to move in its area of effect, and it's perfect for using when artillery is targeting those enemy units. Tornado is a bit different, as it slowly damages enemy units and adds an overcharge effect on them, which can be combined with some types of attacks to deal extra damage. Lightning Storm is perfect for putting buildings and defenses out of action for a short amount of time just before launching an attack. Lastly, the Meteor is a brute force superpower which deals a lot of damage in a small impact area. The middle line of superpowers is a mix of utility and damage. You start with a healing aura which can fix vehicles and heal soldiers, continue with the minefield which can blow up both units and buildings in a small area where the mines are deployed, while the carpet bombing superpower is massively more destructive but in a straight line. The teleport is definitely the most powerful of all utility superpowers, as it lets you pile up a lot of units onto a single spot, mark them and choose a spot where to move them instantly. This lets you go behind all enemy defenses instantly and basically wins the match in one move. I had an interesting poll about superpowers and super weapons on my community page recently, and I add the results of that poll now for you to think about it in this context. When it comes to the campaign, it screams old school. Be that the Welcome Commander intro, the two-faction conflict, gathering lost units around the map, blowing up red barrels to destroy enemy units in a chain reaction, a staple of RTS if there ever was one, and even finding secret areas filled with stuff nightmares are made of. The first mission slowly teaches you unit basics, resource collection, and later base building along with setting up defenses. These include anti-infantry and anti-armor defensive towers, walls which can be upgraded with these towers, but also bunkers which you don't build but recruit. These can not only walk to a place you want them to be, but can also deploy mines all around them as one of their abilities. Do be careful, exploding mines blow up your own units too. You can garrison a lot of units in these bunkers, and there are a number of other both land and air units which can transport infantry, while the infantry can shoot out of them. The first campaign mission also lets you use the engineer to capture a building, which in turn gives you access to your first superpower, controlling weather and thunderstorms, which you can get to test out immediately for great effect. The second mission starts in a more usual way, with you getting an HQ building and a constructor, but I will stop here so as not to spoil too much for you. The campaign is the bread and butter of the C&C RTS after all, as its developer sees the single player as his main focus, but does not disregard multiplayer entirely if there is enough player interest in it. My and other people's previous polls showed that you, the RTS player base, mostly play single player only, be that the campaign or Skirmish vs AI, so this focus actually makes most sense. Feel free to dispute this in the comments below, as I would like to hear not just your opinion about this game, but the single player focus in general. When it comes to the Skirmish vs AI gameplay, right from the start you will notice the differences between the factions. When you construct the supply station with the Endeavor faction, you get a VTOL aircraft which is fast and moves much better across terrain than its land counterpart in the Presidium faction, but it is vulnerable to anti-air units. Building infantry and land unit production buildings might follow the same outline in both factions, but the Presidium doesn't have a dedicated air unit production building, while the Endeavor faction has one which can house up to 4 bombers which have dual weapons and an afterburner they use when retreating after a successful bombing run. On the other hand, the Presidium faction has a shield building you can construct to cover both your units and buildings with an extra defensive layer. There is also a unit which has this function, but can also be a disruptor of enemy units in its alternative mode. While both factions offer a trade uplink as a building you can construct and gain a passive income, only the Endeavor faction has an offensive super weapon, which has a very long cooldown, limited range, and a modest destruction effect. The Presidium faction does not have an offensive super weapon, and instead has a massive shield building which can cover most of your base. Both of these offensive and defensive structures are very power intensive, so it is a good idea to invest your intel points into the large power plant building, which is then dropped from orbit as you use the superpower and gain a massive boost to your power supply. Another use for intel is to unlock extra units or unit modes, or units extra weapon damage. This is done in the research lab building, available to both of the factions, while you can get extra weapon systems onto units by paying just with the credits in their dedicated buildings. Besides the intel resource, there is another type of a box you can pick up on the battlefield, this one in purple color, which instantly gives your unit a veteran status. I know Veterancy is a feature most of you like to see in an RTS, and I do too. The balancing of such a feature is a very good topic and should always be handled with care by the developers. You can share your thoughts about this topic in the comments below, while I want to mention an interesting tidbit like how there are stockpiles encased in ice. And to be able to gather resources from these stockpiles, you have to destroy all that ice first. I personally really enjoyed playtesting this game, and I hope you will like what you have seen in this showcase. While for more similar games, please use the cards on the screen or links in the description. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!